Have you got too much stress in your life? Oh, let's talk about stress. So, there are two different types of stress. One is a situational stress, something that's happened externally and it's caused stress. And then there's chronic stress. There are other types of stress, but these are two categories of stress. And then there's chronic stress, where there's always low levels of stress. So, next month, we're going to talk about chronic stress and patterns. This specific stress that we're going to talk about today is situational stress. Something has happened. Oh, there's a little rabbit. It's so cute. There's another one. We got a whole family. Oh, something has happened outside of your body that's causing stress, a situation, a divorce, a death, the loss of a job, the economy, those relationships, those types of things. Now, lots of these things that we're going to talk about today. Oh, I love that, Lorene. Lots of these things that we're going to talk about today help with any kind of stress, but some are very specific to this type. And in August, when we do our magnesium challenge, we'll talk about the other things. So, foods that you eat. There are some very specific, oh my gosh, I just hit like bunny heaven. Um, there are some very specific things that you can eat. Pears. Pears are really good at mopping up cortisol. A high quality yogurt. I'm not talking like a Go-Gurt or a Yoplait. I'm talking a high quality yogurt that doesn't have added sugars. Yogurt can be candy if you buy the wrong kind. Now, if dairy is not a good fit for you, if your gut is broken beyond the point of being able to eat dairy, then that's not going to be a good fit. One of my favorites is yogurt with honey drizzled over the top. A good Greek or Icelandic yogurt with honey drizzled over the top, because both of those foods help mop up cortisol in your body. And that's a good thing, because remember, when you have stress and you experience stress, you're creating cortisol in your body. Creating cortisol is taking away from the building blocks of creating progesterone and estrogen. And so when your body goes to create those, you have sent out a 911, no, you must create cortisol. And so it robs you of hormonal balance, because you've taken all the building blocks for those hormones and you put them into building cortisol. So that's yogurt with honey on it is really good at mopping up the excess cortisol. Because I want you to think of, there is this little place in Carmel that my husband, well, I love to go there. My husband goes with me. It's this little tea house, and it's a Jane Austen tea house. And it's just this delightful little place. Good morning, Shelley. What a kind thing to say. It's this delightful little place in Carmel, and then we always hit the cheese shop. They have there's a great cheesemaker there. But creating health with lots of cortisol would be like sitting in that tea shop with all of the china and the chandeliers and throwing a bowling ball and just pinging it all over the walls and expecting it not to break anything. It's not going to happen. Cortisol is like that bowling ball in that tea shop. It's just going all over the place like this, breaking down connections, etching away at your body. So it's important that when we do have when we do have stress, that we give our body what we need food-wise. And it's so easy to go to simple carbs and sugars, because they can give us a quick fix, like, oh, I felt bad there for a minute. But in the long run, you're making it worse. So here's the principle behind that. Do not seek short-term solutions. And if you start focusing today on building your muscle and not seeking short-term solutions, that's powerful. You have to build that muscle, though. It's not something you start in the middle of stress. You just build it slowly, day by day. You just don't seek short-term solutions. So another one is, and this goes for any type of stress and disease, I see this happening a lot. Don't let it become your egoic label. So what's an egoic label? I heard it in a class a long time ago and I had to, like, what? What's that? So if you haven't heard that phrase before, your egoic label is what you've named yourself. So for example, the world would name my husband a child of an alcoholic, or the adult child of an alcoholic. The world would name me a sexual abuse survivor. So don't let the stress, I'm so much more than that, and so is my husband. Now, we definitely have things because of those experiences that have made us stronger and given us some things to work through and learn, and we still have more. We're on that journey. We don't let that name us. We are so much more than that. And so you have to make sure you're not letting that stress name you. You're not, when you meet people, it's not watch how you introduce yourself and watch what you tell people a lot about yourself. That's your egoic label. That's what you've labeled yourself as. So, for example, when my husband met me, I don't think I've ever shared this. I have to. Okay, I'm not going to let other people determine. Okay, so when my husband met me, I was a single mom on welfare. And he didn't see that label. He's really good at seeing people's potential. And that's how he viewed me. And it's a gift that he's taught me how to view myself and step into my potential versus wearing that egoic label. So don't let it, maybe it's someone going through divorce, and all of a sudden how you're viewed in the world is changing. You have to learn how to hold that space for whatever new thing you're walking into. And you have more than just one egoic label. And you are more than those things. And so having that belief and holding it strongly is crucial. Now, another thing is building your habits very strongly. Building your habits. Building those habits strongly. So when stress hits, you will only be as healthy as your habits are. Because and a habit is something that you just do without thinking. So for example, I have a habit laying out all my stuff at night, getting my water bottles ready. That's one of my wind down for bed. And in the morning, it makes it a no-brainer. It's easy. I don't even think about that. I don't have a checklist that I check it off. It's just part of what I do. It doesn't even take up space in my brain. And the more habits like that you have in place, when that hard situational thing happens, you'll fall back into your habits. But you'll only fall back into your habits that are not taking gray matter. So if you're having to think and make a list and put it on your list and think about, okay, I need to do this today, I need to do this today, that's not a habit yet. That hasn't become one of your habits. You're building it, you're in the process of building it, but a habit is at the point it happens. It's not something that you have to consciously hold on to and make sure that happens. You've built that routine so strongly, it's become a habit. So I want to know, share with me, what are things that you have built so strongly that they're a habit, that it's become a habit for you? So for a long time, I didn't have the habit of meal prep, and it made meals and food incredibly stressful. Now I've created that habit. I've got the day, I've got the time, I've got the setup. That one took me probably the longest, especially now that there's just two of us, my husband and I. Because when all the kids left, it was a completely different experience. So I had to rebuild that habit. So I want you to share with me. Oh, I love that. That, Sherry. Oh, that's a power statement right there. I am as healthy as my habits. I want you to share with me. Let's celebrate together one of the habits that you have in place. So one of mine is my morning and my nighttime routine. Like, I'm so solid on those, and they go very well, and they set me up for success in the morning and at night. Not perfection, success. Now, another thing, and this is, many of you know that my husband is a double amputee. He was born without, oh, we're going to get past these people right here. Good morning. He's doing so good. Okay, so I'm on this little tiny footbridge, and they were trying to train their dog. So he was born without veins being set up correctly in his body. They should be about the size of your finger. So below from his knee down, you branch off with 3 of those. He had one that was like a silken thread around his heart. He does not have the correct veins to get blood to his heart. Now let's think about that. Blood is nutrients. That means his heart was slowly starving. His eyes, he was blind for a while. And we're so grateful for medical intervention because they were able to restore his eyesight after being completely blind. And so sometimes stuff is just hard, and it's not because of anything that you've done. He was born that way. He can't change that. Now, his body has compensated for that in some really beautiful ways, but sometimes life is just hard. It's just so hard, and not because of anything that you've done. Now, when we first started realizing, because he was never diagnosed, he had all these issues, but they didn't know what it was. And then he had heart issues, and they went in to do some procedures to keep him alive. I was very grateful for those procedures. If anybody trolls me on that, you're blocked. And that's when they were like, whoa, this is not how it's supposed to be. And embracing gratitude, experiencing the hard and just sitting with it, and embracing gratitude helped us to keep our stress levels down. Mine went high. And so one of the things that really helped me was salt. Because when your body is stressed, you use more salt. Now, I'm not talking straight sodium. I'm talking salt that's loaded with minerals, doesn't have plastics and hasn't been colored, like pink Himalayan. There is such, oh my gosh, pink Himalayan, like, ugh, on pink Himalayan, because the majority of pink Himalayan salt is dyed pink and it's not really pink Himalayan salt. True pink Himalayan salt is good. It's got less minerals than a good Celtic salt does, and that's what we want in the salt, is those minerals. Now, remember, I'm not a doctor. I'm sharing with you what I've done, because if you have high blood pressure or if you're on certain medications, it's not going to be appropriate for you to kick in and increase your salt intake. So you have to do that with what works for you. During that time, he was at McKD. I was in Logan, traveling back and forth. He had to go on disability. He couldn't go back to work. So our income dropped by 2/3. I mean, it was just, stressful. You guys have had that stressful stuff happen. And so that salt, that $5 bag of Selena Naturally Celtic salt, because here's one of my patterns because of adverse childhood experiences as a little girl. I'm really good at getting through the crisis, like rock star. And then after the crisis, I crash. I just crash. And I didn't know what was going to happen. And my goal was, I can't crash after this. My kids need me. They were afraid too. And so because of that belief in I cannot crash after this, I knew my strengths and my weaknesses, and I had to overcome the weakness. That little $5 bag of salt kept me going, allowed me to manage my cortisol levels, kept me healthy. Now, there were other things that I did, but that was a game changer for me. And so there's a couple principles in that. Your trust bank. You have to build your trust bank. You have to build it. You have to build that trust bank. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Now, we're all on a journey of this one. And it's not that we're demanding perfection. If you say you're getting up at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock, whatever time it is for you, get up. Don't hit the snooze button. When you hit that snooze button, you have already violated a contract to yourself, and your trust bank goes down. And that way, when times of stress happen, you don't have trust in yourself that you can get through it, that you can make it, because those are some of the most beautiful lessons that I've learned, or quote, the hard things. Beautiful things are learned through that. And so building that trust bank, if you say you're going to be in bed by 9 o'clock, last night I was so excited to hop into bed, and I think I was in like 8:45. If you say you're going to be in bed by 10 o'clock or whatever time it is, don't get caught up on the times, then do it. That builds your trust bank. And if you don't have that core belief that you can make it through hard things because you don't trust yourself, that's why you wouldn't have that belief, then it will make that journey so much harder. So start, in fact, sometimes I'll say, I have a little cube timer, and on one side it says like 5 minutes, another side it says like 15 minutes. And just to make sure my trust bank is on, I'll set the timer for something and say out loud, in 10 minutes, I am done with this project and taking the puppy for a walk. And when that timer goes off, oh shoot, they just took our spot. Well, I'm glad for them. They're working with their puppy. I was going to go stand out I'll find somewhere else. Oh, I'll go around the corner. Plan B. I had circled back around to go finish our call over at one of my favorite spots. So we'll go to my next favorite spot. But build that trust bank, because as you build that, because your belief plays a huge role in how you manage stress. Do you believe you can make it through? Do you believe you will learn beautiful things during the hard? So those are important. And the most important thing is sunshine. Keep that sunshine going. Sunshine reprograms your cells back to what they were originally meant to be. You know, we've got all of this. Oh, I always get these initials confused. MT, HT, FR. That's not the right ones, but you know what I mean. That's a disconnected DNA code. All sorts of things have caused little snippets to get messed up. Get out in the sunshine, reconnect your DNA to its proper coding. So don't forget that sunshine. Man, the water is so far out today. I don't even know if you'll see it very much. When I turn to do our breathing, that sunshine recodes it. Embracing gratitude. Yeah. And here's the thing, Pat, we have to be really careful, because sometimes is what we can do is like, okay, we know that principle, but we embrace it before we embrace the feelings of the hard stuff. And if you don't embrace and get comfortable with being uncomfortable, embracing the gratitude, you'll end up this really passive aggressive person, because you've got all this heartache below the smile. And so it's really important you do it in its proper order. Now, a pattern, because we've talked a lot on our sunshine morning walks together, you and I, we've talked a lot about patterns. A pattern that will rob you of the ability to thrive during hard times is comparison. And we saw this so much when my husband, he had his first leg amputated below the knee, and then I think it was about 9 months later, he had his second one amputated. And the first one we did really well. Like, oh, okay, we got this. The second one, flat on our butts, because his first leg, anyway, it was just hard. And people would compare, oh my gosh, I've only got this, you've got that. Here's my philosophy that I picked up and formed during that hard time. If I'm drowning in 30 feet of water and you're drowning in 10 feet of water, aren't we both drowning? Why would you dismiss your 10 feet of hard just because it's 10 feet? So being dismissive when you see something else, and yes, there are varying degrees. Hard is hard, no matter how many degrees are there or not. So learning how to be, when you dismiss it to other people, you're dismissing it to yourself. Drowning is drowning, no matter where it's at or how hard you've deemed it. Drowning is drowning. And so that pattern of comparing your hard to other hard. And then remember, on patterns, if you're comparing hard, you're comparing good too. And it's the thief of health, and it's the thief of joy, and it's the thief of getting through hard times, because you're not allowing yourself to embrace those feelings. This is hard. Then another one is building connections, because you've heard me say, I hope you've heard me say, hope I've said it a whole bunch of times, building connections. Healthy women are connected women. Building those connections of support where you can be real. You've all seen the social media posts that the kitchen looks beautifully staged, or front room, or family, or whatever, but the whole part of the picture is just chaos. You need people on your board of directors that know the whole story, that know everything. Well, not everything. Let me pull that word back. That know the real you, the ups and the downs, and love you anyway. I was talking to my adult daughters. I have 3 adult daughters, and I was talking to them, and I was so happy for them because they all have friends that love them on their worst days. And that's a powerful connection. And if you don't have that, you need someone who knows your flaws just like they know your strengths, and they still love you. That is a powerful connection and a support bank for you. Then my next question to you is, are you that friend to someone else? Will you love someone as deeply if you know their flaws? Or are you so busy putting the energy of judgment on their flaws that you break the connection? And then we know that when magnesium, good morning from Toronto. I saw somebody from Kentucky. Good morning, good morning. And then we know that when stress levels go up, magnesium is pushed out faster through your urine. So you have, well, not have to. I choose to soak more often because I know that magnesium is the chill pill mineral. That magnesium is helping my body to stay in fight or flight. Another tool that I have is working with my hips, because hips hold stress. And so making sure that your hips are open and flexible helps you manage stress. Another one, I'll never forget this client. The wife was a client and a dear friend, and she had been begging her husband to come in, just begging him. And he was what I like, a muscle guy, like the kind of guy that goes to the gym and drops the weights, that kind of guy. And I realized I had put an egoic label on him because he was not that kind of guy. He did drop the weights, but he wasn't that box that I'd put him in. And he'd had some real stress in his life, massive life-altering stresses. And he was trying to hold it all in and hold it all together for his family. And the more he tried to make it look good and hold it all in, the more his family was crumbling because they didn't understand some of the side things that were coming out. And he was so incredibly, looked so incredibly healthy. And so I was like, what's going on? What's going on here? There's a disconnect. It was in his lymph. His lymph was not moving. Our lymph, and if you've never heard this before, it sounds so crazy. And if you don't agree with it, that's okay. I didn't when I first heard it. I've seen it work too much over the last 20 years and play too big of a role with people. In that his lymph, our lymph holds emotions, and his lymph wasn't moving as much. And he also had a testosterone conversion issue that was happening, and his lymph wasn't moving. And so I thought, okay, that's one place that we could focus on, is getting that lymph moving, which a rebounder I fell in love with rebounding during my husband's heart issues because it helped keep my hips open. I wish I could show you, there's a movement you can do on the rebounder that keeps it open, and it helps to keep that lymph moving freely through your body. And emotions and your immune move through your lymph and your hormones. Lymph is powerful, so powerful. In fact, I will have team link in the comments below. There is a video I've got over on YouTube that's a really great way if you don't have a rebounder. I have one by my back door, and when I'm done with this walk, I'll go home and I'll get on my rebounder for 12 minutes. Maximum efficiency happens with your lymph at 12 minutes. And I'll rebound for 12 minutes, keeping those hips open, keeping my lymph moving. Then I'll go in the house and drink water. That's one of my habits. That habit helps me get through stress. So I'm going to hurry and walk fast because they left the spot. Except for the water is so far out today. I'm at the Marina and the boats aren't even in the water, like they're dry. And so, but I still want to go out to that spot and we'll do our breathing together. You may not see the beautiful blue like we usually do, but it's still a beautiful spot. I'll hurry and get there. But while I'm picking up my pace to get there so we can finish our time together, I want you to think about and share with me, what have you connected to? What has been most helpful for you? We've got about 30, 31, it's kind of going back and forth, people on this call. I have a goal. Here's my goal. That 31 people take micro action and put in their brain, scan their brain, because when you do that, it puts it in a different part of your brain when you determine what was most helpful for you. And then when you share it, it's another micro action. And when you share it, it can be the very thing somebody else needed to see. I can't tell you how many times someone will email me and say, so and so left this comment and it was exactly what I needed to hear today. Tell them thank you, or thank you so much. So I would love to see 30, now we have 30 people. I would love to see 30 comments of what was most helpful. And if you're an introvert, I might have just pushed your button. You do have to do something different to end up somewhere different. And we've got to change our habits and patterns. And if you're comfortable with that, if you're an introvert, I have moments of being an incredible introvert. If you would be okay just stepping outside of that comfort zone a little bit and leaving that comment, it can help build your muscle of being okay with being uncomfortable. Now, if it's too much, I get it. That's your choice. No guilt, no anything like that. But man, oh man, if you can do anything, one of my most successful money classes that I ever did, that like those women in that class created in their hands, I think there was 52, maybe 32. Oh, I'm not sure on the numbers. Over $3 million that they experienced showing up for them. And the biggest thing that we did in that class, and I remember I cried afterwards because I thought maybe I pushed them too hard. But I asked all of them to do a very specific thing that was out of their comfort zone. And every single one of them did it. And that class was, to this day, one of my favorite classes ever. In fact, I had someone come up to me and say, Kristen, that class changed the game financially for my family. Oh, I'm here. So I'd love to know what the most helpful thing. Wait, I want to show you. I want to give you like a view. Oh, here's the last tool. Having a place that brings you down, puts you back in that place of balance. This is one of my places that I brought you to. Let me show you why. There's this big, beautiful tree over here. There's, let's see, I don't know if you can see them. The marinas over there. And I'm not for ocean kayaking, but my husband and I love to kayak in the marina. A lot of times we'll go down that way to the restaurants, have dinner, get back on our kayaks, come back to here. So I love this marina. There's tons of starfish. A lot of times there's little sea otters. And then I don't know if you can see it over there is, I don't know if you can see it over there is Moro Rock. And it's just one of those places. It's just one of those places that I love to be. There's a beautiful bench right here. A lot of times I'll bring my journal out and I'll journal and just sit right here. You can hear lots of birds. It's right by Blue Heron Sanctuary and the egret. I believe I'm saying that right, an egret place. You need to find your place. When I lived in Logan, it was my front porch. It just had this vibe to it, and people would feel it. It was interesting. They'd say, "Oh, that porch." I'm like, "I know, right? That porch just has." In the early morning before the traffic would start, find your place that you feel balanced in, that you automatically, when you hit that place, you just immediately feel better. And if you can, go barefoot in that place. And we'll talk about negative ions later. This has gotten too long. So, right now, remember our mantra? Do you remember what it is? Sunrise, sunset, sunrise, sunset, sunrise, sunset. So, I am going to, you won't be able to see the blue of the water because we've got such a heavy marine layer day, but you'll still be able to hear the birds and just imagine. Um, so we're in the bay, and then right over there, where there's a rock line, like a dirt that they piled up, and it was actually when the when we were at I don't know if it was considered war. Oh, but anyway, the with the Japanese long time ago, they built that so that the troops could practice landing and doing that kind of thing with the Japanese. So this is the bay. The ocean is right over that. Moro Rock is right there. The marina with all the boats is right here. And just imagine yourself standing here with me, and we breathe our sunrise, sunset. So we're going to start, and you've got 1 minute. Oh, don't you feel better after that deep breathing and just taking a moment to be? Sometimes stress can push us into human doings. And we're not human doings, we're human beings. And we need to give ourselves that space to just be. And, I love social media. There's a downside to it. And one of the downsides is our scrolling has got us dopamine deficient as we scroll. And so it's getting to where we have to consciously make the decision to quiet our brain and meditate. That will help you also manage stress. I have loved being with you today. My intention and my agenda for today is not for you to think I've conquered all stress and I just sail above it. I am on the journey, walking it right along with you. I shared some of the tools that I imperfectly use that have helped me during what I consider a major life crisis. Remember, though, don't compare 30 feet or 10 feet. Drowning is drowning. Hard is hard. And if you've got hard going on right now, I see you. We've got this, you and I together. Let's hang out together every morning. If you want to be on that texting group, text 435-213-9048. And I think we've got it down. I think Shopify was the weak link. We didn't even realize that, but I think Shopify was the weak spot. And I'll send out, once we get it hooked up, I'll send out a couple of my favorite quotes, because a good quote can just help me remember who I am and what I'm capable of. And I want you to remember who you are and what you're capable of. Love being with you today. Bye.